So what is topology? It can be described as the study of topological properties of topological spaces. That of course by itself tells you nothing. First of all, we have to know what is a topological property. A topological property is a property that can be expressed in terms of continuity alone. Okay. So here's an example. The example is the intermediate value theorem. You see, it's a function of continuous function. It's a property of continuous functions, and true for all continuous functions on intervals. But let me sort of spell this out in a little more geometric sense. So suppose we have two different spaces. Both x, y are both contained in real numbers. And continuous functions on x and y means that they should be different functions that extend to, let us say, all of R continuously. Okay, restrictions of continuous functions on R. Okay, and the spaces are x is a single interval. Let's say the interval 0, 1, and y is two intervals. Okay, let's just take both of them closed. Union 2, 3. So this guy is a single interval, and this guy is two intervals. Okay. Obviously, you can see x is connected, y is not connected, and essentially the formulation of intermediate value theorem is the following property, okay, which is true for x and not for y. So let me state it as a property true for x. Okay, so namely, if f, suppose we take a function from x to r, which is continuous, and suppose we know that for f of x, that is the image, is contained in the set of 2 points 0, 1. Okay. Now, since not everyone may be that familiar with set notation, let me spell it out. This is the set for all x in x. F of x is a point in 0, 1. It's either 0 or it's 1. Okay, then what can we conclude? Then f is constant. It has to be the constant function 0 or the constant function 1. This is exactly a consequence of intermediate value theorem. You can say this encapsulates, and this is false for y. Now, as soon as we can define continuous functions correctly, this is a very basic property, topological property. This is called being connected. X is connected, y is not connected, because on y you can have a function which is 0 here and 1 here, for example. It will still be continuous. For example, you could extend it by, if I think in terms of a graph of a function, I can take a function that is 0 here, goes up in a step, and is 1 here. So it's 0 on this set, 1 here. It's continuous on real numbers. After that, it could be whatever you like. So you have a function that's continuous on real numbers, restricted to y. It's 0 here and it's 1 here. So it's always, this is not the interval 0, 1, I emphasize, it's the set 0, 1. Okay. So here you see a basic topological property. And topology is the study of such topological properties. Let me give a second example, which is a little bit deeper, and again which you would have seen in basic analysis. And this is the property that I will not distinguish spaces by this, but instead characterize one space, or say that a space has this property. Any continuous function f, if it maps, let's say 0, 1 to R, well, this is bounded. And as you would know by a trick, if you know it's bounded, it also attains its maximum. Its maximum and minimum similarly. Okay. So this is a topological property. This is called compact. Again, defined entirely in terms of continuous functions. Okay, also maybe the order on real numbers came in and talking about boundedness, but as far as the space was concerned, it was entirely in terms of real numbers. I'm sorry, in terms of continuous functions. Okay, so topology is the study of topological properties, as I said, on topological spaces. And the study of topological properties in this sense goes back to Euler and was there to a significant extent in 1800s. In fact, algebraic topology, as it's called, was invented by Poincaré even before topology as we are going to see it in this course. So this course is really about what you might call foundations of topology, the correct way to capture all these. And indeed, historically, it went close. General topology, set topology as we would call it, went along with set theory and logic as a part of foundations of mathematics. So you can think that the algebraic structures, not much foundation is needed besides the common ones of mathematics, but for topology analysis you need somewhat special foundations. And these are captured in the notion of topological spaces, which are where we can make sense of all these. We'll come to that, but a couple of comments here. As I said, topological properties are important, and really that's what we want to study in topology, the way topological spaces are a foundation for that. In concrete objects, which may not be abstract topological spaces, I mean they're post facto abstract topological spaces, but they come from something else. Okay, and the reason these are important is if you express it in terms of only continuity, this is the weakest thing in terms of which you are doing it. So these are in some sense the most fundamental maybe, or certainly the most robust properties. And robustness actually has practical applications. I mean topological insulators and materials depend on the fact that topological properties are rather robust. So what are topological spaces? We'll make that precise, of course, but the goal is to have spaces between which we have a good definition of continuity. And well, what does good mean? That's what we'll explain here. We'll see the definition soon enough. It's quite remarkable actually that one definition works almost perfectly in a large context. I'll say some casual things about the almost along the way, but as far as we are concerned, it works. And we'll be only looking at that. So good, of course, should mean includes examples we want. Okay, and specifically, especially subspaces of Rn. So for subspaces of Rn, we should be able to define continuous functions from these, and also it should include constructions. So we should have constructions. We may want these for different reasons. We may want them for concrete sort of geometric reasons or where sources arise. But also there are general principles in mathematics which will tell you that we should have objects like products and quotients and so on. Just like with vector spaces, we have products of vector spaces. We would like to have these for various reasons. We should want objects-based topological spaces based on both general principles and specific things we want. As far as specific, take for an example a Mobius band, which I believe most of you would have seen. If you haven't, please look up the Mobius band. So a Mobius band can be described by taking a strip of paper, twisting it and gluing the ends back together. And we would want to so what we want is, for example, if I want a Mobius band, okay, might as well draw a picture of it. And so it's a rectangle. I start with a rectangle here, and I glue this end to this end with a twist. These are pictures you'll see in topology quite a lot. What I'm saying is this arrow is glued to this arrow with a twist. It's a common way of denoting it. First of all, we should be able to describe what the square is as a topological space. It's a subspace of Rn. And then we have to describe the gluing process. The latter is much more subtle. How would we correctly describe it? For those who have seen metric spaces, in fact, one of the great weaknesses of metric spaces is we cannot define this gluing in a convenient way, even here. And indeed, in certain cases, the generalization of the gluing, which is quotient, cannot be described as a metric space at all. Now, whether in those cases topological space is the correct description is a little more dubious. In some ways, yes. In some ways, it has its limitations. But we'll come to that eventually. So we want constructions and we want examples which will have these things. Okay, so this is essentially what we mean by a good definition. And when I say it includes, and it should also, when we say it includes these, it means the notion of continuity should coincide with the usual notion here. Okay, so we have spaces, and of course should have some good properties. Yeah, so good properties of continuity. continuity besides coinciding with the other one. Okay, so these are things that we would like desirable, and also capture other examples which are not obviously geometric. Okay, so this is one thing which is very powerful in mathematics. When you make a formal definition and you prove results about it, you're abstracting a bunch of examples. Lots of other things will fall into this, which were not anyway designed to fall into this at all. Okay, so we'll soon come to a precise definition, but the last bit of this particular video will be just simply to motivate what we mean by so making a good definition of a topological space. So that way I have motivated what is it we'll capture in that good definition. So we want to abstract the notion of continuity. We want a setting where it is defined. There are a couple of ways to do it, but as I mentioned, one way seems to work very well. This was discovered in the 1910s, around up to 1920, by Hausdorff and Kuratowski. So again, as I commented once before, topology in the real sense predates that. So I mentioned Mobius band. You may have seen a Klein bottle. Both Klein and Mobius predate Hausdorff and Kuratowski. Okay, so these are the foundations. But so the foundations which are convenient to use is abstracting the epsilon delta continuity. Okay, epsilon deltonics, I assume, is something all of you have seen. That's a prerequisite, at least for functions from R to R and ideally Rn to Rn. And so what is the notion of continuity? So I have a function, let's say a function from R to R for simplicity, and here is a copy of the real line, and here's a copy of the real line, and here's a point x and f of x. And the definition that we have all seen is that if you are near enough to x, you should be near enough to f of x. But more precisely, that if I have, let me just take it in Rn, so the picture is a little more vivid. So let's change this to Rn to Rn. So in this case, it's R2 to R2. So this is not just, so here's a point, here's another point. Maybe they happen to lie on the real line. But what I want is that if I take any neighborhood of f of x, okay, in this case, this is an epsilon ball. But we are not going to depend on epsilons or distances. So this is a neighborhood of f of x. Then we can find a neighborhood of x, which is small. This is the delta neighborhood. So delta ball is a delta neighborhood. So that the function f, which will map this guy in here, maps this entirely into the f of x neighborhood. It may greatly distort this guy. So he may map to something like this, but he doesn't escape from the blue one. Okay, so we can abstract. So one way would be, so this is what we want to abstract. We want to get rid of epsilon and delta, but remember we have to do it for all epsilon, and so we need families of neighborhoods. So we can define and axiomatize neighborhood systems. Okay. But this is a little bit of a nuisance. I mean, you would do it if there wasn't a better way. But there is a better way, because you notice this neighborhood system depends on the space and a point. So we'll have two quantifiers. For each point and in the space, we have a neighborhood system. So we'll have a variation of neighborhoods, but also varying the points. But instead, rather, it's not can here. Instead, we axiomatize, that is, we characterize what properties we need for what are called open sets. And an open set, which many may have seen in other contexts, Rn maybe, or metric spaces. But anyway, so these are sets, open sets U, that is, sets X, sets U contained in X, such that if X is in U, a neighborhood, so some neighborhood of X is contained in U. So an open set is something which has a little bit of room to wiggle. which means that if I have a given point, I have room to wiggle in all directions. Okay, so if you're thinking of it in Rn, given any point, I can find a little ball around it, which is contained here. Now I could have been unlucky and chosen that point in the corner, in which case maybe I have my wiggle room goes down drastically, and perhaps undrawable by someone with my skills. But here's a little neighborhood of that other point, the red point that is contained in this set. Okay, so you look at sets, open sets, such that if X is in U, some neighborhood of X belongs to you. Okay, so and well, we want to think in terms of open sets. We'll define things entirely in terms of open sets alone, but neighborhood means neighborhood of X means so neighborhood of X means there exists open set. Well, when I say means, that's one way of interpreting it. U, so neighborhood of X, let's give it a name, script n, U such that X is in U and U is contained in N. Okay, so a neighborhood means there's wiggling room inside the neighborhood of X. Okay, so if we knew what were the open sets, we can capture what are the neighborhoods for every point. That means there must be some open set such that this happens. So we'll formalize all this, but my point I wanted to make here is, as I have said already, this collection of open sets don't depend on the point. So we just have a collection of sets U, and we have to see what are the properties that these U's should satisfy. And so once we have these set of properties, we axiomatize that and make a definition. So the last thing to say here is, what is the main property that we need, the main subtle property that we need? Well, if we have the intersection of two open sets, okay, so we frequently have arguments where we want to show continuity of, say, F plus G, where we get one delta from one F and we get another delta from G, and we want to take a smaller delta. So in terms of not a rigid ordering, but in terms of open set, this says that if a point is contained in one open set, then it has some wiggle room around it. And if it's contained in the another open set, it still has some wiggle room in the other set. So if we wiggle by this picture is a little too specific. We will see again many such examples. But the main point we see is that if I look at the intersection of two open sets, then the delta 1 ball around one is contained in the first one, and the delta 2 ball around the other one is contained in the second one. So the min delta 1, delta 2 is contained in the intersection. So the subtle property here is, if I take an intersection of two, or by induction finitely many open sets, they are contained in an open set. This will be the key to axiomatizing open sets. Okay, so with this we have motivated what is topology. As I said, its properties captured by continuity. I've already said these are in some sense the most fundamental or robust properties. It also turns out they're typically global properties, which is nice. We don't want to, because local perturbations are continuous. And so it's very nice and useful to study these. But here what we want to do is the foundations of these. Okay, so the foundations involve abstracting the notion of continuity and generalizing it to a setting where we can define the which is a notion of a topological space, so that we can construct lots of topological spaces and we can build them. So there are nice properties. The set of topological spaces has the collection of all topological spaces has nice properties. Continuity on them has nice properties. And the way in which we will do it is by abstracting epsilon delta continuity, but not via neighborhoods, instead via open sets.